All right, everybody, welcome back. We have crimped our pie, right? I showed you 3 different ways of crimping a pie, but now it's time to learn how to blind bake it. So if I was making a buttermilk pie, a pumpkin pie, a pecan pie, any of those kinds of pies, I would never put my filling into a raw crust for a couple of reasons. One is you'll always have a soggy bottom. 2, pie crust bakes at a high temp, but custards bake at a low temp. So I like to blind bake my pies around 375 to 400 because I want my pie crust to be really flaky. And if you bake your pie crust at a low temp, the butter just kind of melts before it sweats and creates those lovely layers of air and butter and dough and air and butter and dough that are caused by the water in the butter and in your dough releasing very quickly as steam to power up. But your custards are really delicate, like your pecan pie and your pumpkin pie. Those all have eggs in them, and if you bake those at 375, they're gonna taste like really curdly and eggy. So you always wanna blind bake your pie crust at a high temp, and then lower your oven to about 325 to very slowly bake your custard filling. So, in order to blind bake a pie, I do not want you to go out and buy any kind of crazy special tools or these like necklaces of beads. You're gonna use old rice and beans. Let me rephrase that. You're gonna use dried rice and beans, not ones you've cooked and have been in your fridge, but you can reuse them several times. So I've been using the same ones for years. That's what I mean by old. So what I've done here is taken 2 pieces of parchment paper. You can use foil if you want to, but don't use wax paper because wax paper is coated with paraffin, which is a petroleum product, and should never go near heat. I take 2 crisscross pieces of parchment paper, pop them into my dough here, giving a nice little crease, and then you can kind of do this so that your dough on the edges doesn't brown too quickly. Remember, this has to go back in the oven usually for baking your custards. One thing you'll notice that make things easier is this. Crumple up your parchment paper, and then it's easier to get those creases. I'm gonna open this up. There we go. And here we are. Okay, now my pie weights go in. Again, this is a collection of dried beans and rice. So you can see here, there's a few ceramic pie weights in here that someone gave me years ago for my birthday. They're ceramic. Be careful with these because if you accidentally eat them, that's a cracked tooth waiting to happen. So I'm gonna pour these in, and I'm going to go all the way to the top. That's why that bead, there's like this necklace thing of like pie weights that you can buy doesn't work because you're mostly looking to support the edges. You don't want those to fall through. So you want to go all the way up with your pie weights. See how my pie is right there? I like to go all the way up to the top, even kind of firming up or strengthening up the tops rather than the middle. And I'm going to curl this under like so and bake this. Everybody's oven is different. My oven is like not a great oven, so I'm gonna bake it at 400. But if you have a convection oven or an oven that actually works really well, I would do this around 375, just until the edges are barely golden. And I'm gonna show you what that looks like in just a moment. All right, so here we go. This is ready to blind bake. If you feel like it's softened a little bit before you added those in there, pop it in the freezer for another 30 minutes to an hour. Because if your pie crust is really like warm and soft, it's just gonna deflate and you're not going to get that lovely crimping that you just got. Okay, all right. We are gonna take a look at a pie crust that's been blind baked for about 20 minutes. So I'm gonna lift up the pie weights. And I like to wait about 5 to 10 minutes after I've taken this out of the oven before I take out the pie weights because it'll prevent it from slumping even more. Here we are. So this is a single blind bake on a pie. This is not ready. This is a very sad gummy pie still on the bottom. So what you want to do at this stage is to prick this with a fork. Here we are. Everywhere, and then we're gonna give it a second bake. So I do a double blind bake always because a crunchy bottom crust is really, really important. Nobody wants to eat their pumpkin pie with like a gummy, soggy bottom. Your oven's on anyway, so pop it in there. And the reason I'm pricking this with a fork, it's called docking, is because I don't want any of the moisture that's in here to bow like this on the bottom. I don't want any moisture to get trapped at the bottom and cause this to bubble up, because that's where I need my filling to go. So pricking it basically allows the steam to escape instead of getting caught underneath and causing your dough to bubble up. Okay, so we're gonna pop this in the oven and I'll show you a little magic of TV. You ready? So here's a couple pies that my little one went ahead and did the crimping on. My little guy, so you can see here that little kids can do this. There's 2 different times I took them out of the oven. This right here is a double blind baked pie that I would put custard in and put it back in the oven. This one here is a double blind baked pie that's perfect on the bottom, that is good for pies that don't get a second turn in the oven. So if I'm doing lemon meringue pie, for example, I'll make lemon curd, I'll put it in here and do the meringue on top, and that's it. Like after I torch the meringue, it's ready to go, because it's fully browned everywhere and nice and crisp. And it's not going back in the oven. So if I had poured some custard into here, it would end up tasting a little bit burnt after it went back in the oven. But for right now, it's just perfect. And this one is double blind baked and ready for something like a pumpkin filling or a chocolate buttermilk filling. We'll talk about buttermilk pie a little bit later. But that is in on the lessons for blind baking. So 3 stages. This one right here is ready for its second blind bake. We've taken the pie weights out. It's going back in the oven for about 5 to 10 minutes, just until you get to this color here, and then it's ready for a filling. Or you can go a couple minutes longer until it's nice and golden and crisp like this one, so that you can put a lemon curd inside here, or whatever filling isn't going to need to go back into the oven, so that when you like put your fork through that lemon meringue pie, the bottom is like super flaky and crunchy, even though it had a really soft custard in there. So thanks for joining me for this. We're going to be doing double crust pies next with a blueberry filling, and later lettuce. Bye.